For Black women, it is extremely disheartening to know that after all of the sacrifices that you've made to get to this point, all of the education that you've invested in, and to finally get a seat at the table in which you do deserve, to then find that all of your counterparts are eating with silver spoons and knives while you are sitting with plastic and Tupperware, how can that not affect someone's mental health and self-worth? It is not only doing a disservice to that Black woman, but it trickles down into something that means so much more: her family. Being that Black women are the heads of majority of their households, they are the main source of income, this could be the one thing that decides how her family lives, where her family lives, what education do they have access to, what foods do they have access to, what services do they have access to. As long as these biases continue to exist within the workplace, it's going to be difficult for employers to see the true value and true leadership skills of Black women.
And welcome back to the breakdown here on ABC News Live. That was Denise Francis. She's founder and CEO of the Self-Love Organization Incorporated, and she recently did a TED Talk on self-care and mental health for Black women and shared her thoughts Equal Pay Day for Black women. Today marks the day the average Black woman working full-time must work into 2021 to catch up with what an average white, non-Hispanic man earned in 2020. Let me repeat that. Today, August 3rd, 214 days into the year is when an average Black woman worker will have to catch up to her white male counterparts' 2020 pay. According to the National Women's Law Center, Black women are paid 63 cents for every dollar made by white men across industries. And we talked to workers about what these statistics mean to them. Take a listen.
I knew I didn't receive equal pay at my former employer, which was a child care center, was because a co-teacher was getting paid the same or if not more.
As an African American woman, I take pride in everything about me, especially my work ethic. I work so hard for my family. I give them 110%, and I give my job 110%. Every day, I'm processing unemployment claims for people who are looking for some kind of way to take care of their families. And I think about the fact that some of those women are African American women who are making $2,000 less per month in their pay, whatever sector that they're in, just because. That pains me. And it pains me because I know they don't have an extra 214 days to make up for what has been taken from them simply because of the color of their skin.
I'm reflecting on one of the root causes of the Black women's pay gap and wage gap. And that is the lack of representation at leadership and senior leadership levels. And on Black Women's Equal Pay Day, we must focus on closing the representation gap at senior leadership levels and creating inclusive environments where Black women are not just accepted as leaders, but they are welcomed and embraced as leaders.
Some feedback there on the wage gap between the average Black woman and the average white man. And Minda Harts, author of the book, The Memo, What Women of Color Need to Do to Secure a Seat at the Table, and host of the podcast, Secure the Seat, is here with a little more on this. Minda, thanks so much for being here. Curious, what do you see as the main barriers right now in 2021 that are holding Black women back from being able to make more money?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really think it's incumbent upon companies and organizations right now to lean in and partner with Black women in the workplace. And in order to do that, I firmly believe that companies have to normalize pay transparency. Many Black women, when we apply to jobs, we don't even know, like many women, know what the salary range is. So let's be transparent. Between 2016 and 2020, only 22% of companies reported their salary audits. And so that leads me to believe that there's a lot of room for transparency. And I think that will lead to the retainment and the recruiting of Black women in the workplace. And next, I would say inclusive hiring practices. Some of the other women alluded to this. We really need to have inclusive practices on every level because 1 in 5 women are in the C-suite, whereas 1 in 25 women of color are advanced. So if we're not leveraged at every level of business in the company, if we're not represented, then again, that's widening the gap. And so there are ways that companies can today start leveling the playing field for Black women.
So while we wait and hope for employers and society to make some of these changes that you're pointing out, are there things that women and particularly women of color can do to try to improve things in the meantime? I've heard, for example, that women are less likely than men to negotiate salary offers or to put themselves up for promotions. So what are some of the things the individual can do to try to help secure that seat, so to speak?
Yes, absolutely. Well, one is we are our best advocate. So when you have the opportunity, which hopefully you're taking advantage of those one-on-one opportunities with your manager or leadership, but articulate your value and quantify your worth. Let people know what you need, what good looks like to you. So if you are interested in advancing and moving up the ladder, let people know that. Don't just assume because they see you early on the Zoom call or you stay late that people know what you want. So leverage that. And then also build a culture of allies and sponsors. Make sure that you're building your network. Success is not a solo sport. So then others can also be speaking your name in the room and make sure that you're receiving that seat at the table.
Minda, you are so right. If you don't speak up, people do not hear you. I think all of us can speak to that. What do you think the biggest mistake is about women when trying to secure that seat? What is it that they might be doing wrong?
You know, Kira, I think that it's important to just remind ourselves how much power we have. I think oftentimes as women, sometimes we think, well, they'll notice the work, right? But no one's going to come very rarely and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, it's time for your promotion, right? So I think, again, just using our voice, knowing that we are good enough to deserve it. And so have your receipts, if you will, let people know how you've added to the bottom line. We're not just asking for more, just some arbitrary number, just like the statistics said, 63 cents on a dollar. Black women would have to work 19 months, whereas a white man only worked 12 months for us to receive that pay. So it's really important for us to leverage the opportunities and let people know what we need. And then also, I think the other part that we're not talking about is knowing when to leave, right? Maybe if after you've had these difficult conversations, if you don't find that you're getting that seat at the table or you're getting pay transparency, then don't be afraid to find another table or create your own.
And Minda, you talked about the dearth of women of color in C-suite positions. If those are the people who then determine who gets hired and who gets promoted to other C-suite jobs, how do employers break that cycle?
Yeah, I think it's important to really focus on inclusive hiring practices, because if you don't have representation at every level, and especially even have diverse hiring committees. So oftentimes when I was in corporate America, I would go on an interview and I'd interview with, 10 people and no one ever looked like me, so I don't always get the benefit of I'm reminding them of their younger self. And so again, there's so many biases happening in the hiring process. And I do believe if we have diverse hiring slates of candidates and diverse hiring committees, we can break some of that cycle.
Minda Harts, great to have you and hear your insight, and allow me to say you have one of the most beautiful kitchens I have ever seen.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.